Rashmi Jeta from KV Damo, TGT English. A very good morning to all. First of all, I am grateful to Regional Office Jabalpur for providing an opportunity to connect to all the students of the region. Now, children, what I am going to teach you all today is the very basic of English language. We all are very much concerned and we know what are the parts of speech. Parts of speech are the bones and skeletons of the English language. Without them, we cannot form a sentence. Parts of speech you all must have studied in primary section and even in 7th, 8th, and they are the 8 parts of speech are noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, adjective, preposition, conjunction and interjection. Without them, we cannot frame a sentence. But today, I am going to take up figures of speech. They are also called literary devices, poetic devices, or literary terms. They are used for adorning the language. They are used for the beautification of the language. Without them, we cannot build the edifice of literature. These are the skills that make our literature very beautiful. So, before going into literature, I think I must dwell upon these terms so that you are acquainted with these terms and you know what is going to be taught or what are the skills that have been employed in a given text. These literary skills, they can be used in any genre of literature. That is, they may be used in poems, they may be used in novels, they may be used in prose, they may be used in essays, novels, or plays and drama. So now we come to these basic literary terms. Now, the first literary term is apostrophe. Apostrophe, all of us are very much acquainted with it, but in literature it is a direct address to the person or the ideas that are usually absent in the given piece of literature or poem. Second is archaic. Archaic means the use of old terms of English that are no longer in use in modern English. They were previously used in medieval and Old English. They are called the archaic terms. For example, steed for the horse, kirk for church, these are all archaic words. Now the third one is allusion. Allusion means a reference to a person or an idea or a book or a moral to which the reader is already familiar with. Next is analogy. Analogy means a resemblance to do different things and it is often expressed in simile or metaphor. Next, fifth is ballad. Ballad is a narrative poem that has a story in it. That means a poem It is a form of poem that has a story in it, and it is sung by many in the chorus using refrain. And it is often described through the dialogues. Next is biography. A very simple thing. Biography is the story of a person written by someone else. Comedy. Comedy is a very common term, and this comedy means all that it ends in laughter and fun. And to taught these things, comedy can be also used for satire. Then next we have the clause. Clause is, in grammar, you must be familiar with this term, and clause is that part of a sentence or a complete sentence that has a subject and a predicate of its own. It may be dependent clause and it may be independent. Next is diction. Diction means the use or the choice of vocabulary or the words that are used in a poem. Diction is the term that is used for poem. Now we do not write that the vocabulary of this poem, no, the diction of this poem. And the diction, it may be scholarly, it may be literary, it may be colloquial, and it may be rustic. So whatever be the choice of vocabulary of the poet, it comes under the word that is diction. Now next is didactic. Didactic means anything that has a moral, a teaching that may be political, that may be religious, or it may be ethical. That is called didactic. Now next is epigram. Epigram is a short sentence that is usually in a poem, and it gains so much of popularity that it becomes a synonym for an idea, and this was mastered very much by the Renaissance poets Dryden and Pope. For example of epigram is the proper study of mankind is man. This is a sentence by Pope, but it has become an epigrammatic sentence. Next is hyperbole. Hyperbole means exaggeration of an idea or exaggeration of an attitude, and it is too much beyond reality. That we call hyperbole. Again, lyric. Next is lyric. Lyric is a type of poem. It is a small, sweet sounding melodious poem. The theme and style of this poem is very simple. And remember, satire has no role in a lyric. Next is metaphor. Metaphor is a comparison between two unlike things, but it is not used by the terms like or as. For example, a lion in war, dew pearled. All these are metaphors. When we convert it into simile, it becomes like a lion in war or dew drops like pearl. After metaphor, we have ode. Ode is a song sung in praise. It is exalted both in theme and in style of writing. Ode to the West Wind, To a Skylark, all these are the famous odes that have been written in the Romantic era. Now, personification. Personification means when an abstract idea is expressed in a way that we are addressing a person. That is called personification. For example, death be not proud. 17. This one is Renaissance. Renaissance is, now it means a great change, but eventually it was a movement that arose in the 14th century AD in Italy, and it was for the revival of the Greek and Roman classics. Next is satire. Satire, it exists in the theme of the writing, not in the style of the writing. It exists in the theme of the writing, and that satire, it has the aim to rectify a wrong that is prevalent in the society by making fun of it. And this form of writing satire, it was very much prevalent in the later half of the 17th and the first half of the 18th centuries. Now we come to simile. Simile is when we take two different things and we compare it, and it is surrounded by the words like or as. For example, as shiny as a star, as bright as a star, he runs as fast as a deer. These are similes. Then we come to sonnet. Now remember, sonnet, it is in the form of the poem. Form means the structure of the poem. It is a poem that is of 14 lines, 14 lines, and there are two types of sonnets. One is the Shakespearean sonnet. The Shakespearean sonnet, it has 3 quatrains of 4 lines each and a couplet at the end. But other is the Petrarchan type of sonnet. The Petrarchan type of sonnet is that sonnet in which we have 2 verses. The first one is the octave, that is of 8 lines, and the second verse is of 6 lines, that is called the sestet. In the octave, an issue is raised, and that issue or problem is resolved in the sestet. But remember, both the types, whether it is the Shakespearean or it is the Petrarchan type of sonnet, the first thing is that they have to confide to 14-line poem, and it exists only in the poem. Next is tautology. Tautology is the repetition of a term or a word to express an idea, and it is knowingly or unknowingly repeated several times. Hope children, you have listened and you have learnt a lot about literary devices, poetic devices or literary terms. Now you have understood where to use them, how to use them. But there were 21 terms, and I think I must give you some definition in written and some examples of the same. Now the first is apostrophe. Apostrophe is the direct address to a person or ideas usually dead or absent in the poem. Archaic. Use of old-fashioned words that are no longer in use. For example, kirk for church and steed for horse. Allusion, a reference familiar to a person. Example, allusion to mythology like Ramayana or Mahabharata. Analogy, a resemblance between two different things, and sometimes they may be expressed as a simile or as a metaphor. Now next is ballad. Now you have already understood what is a ballad. A ballad is a narrative poem. Now let me write the definition of the ballad. And children, it's my request that you please note down the major things that are being told to you, because the major points, they will help you understand. So kindly take notes and you will remember them better. Ballad. Now you know ballad is a narrative poem. So I am now writing the definition. It is a narrative poem that is usually simple, both in theme and in language. Now remember, most of the mythological poems that we have, they are ballads in form, and they always glorify the heroic deeds of the heroes that are either soldiers or great warriors or great rulers. Now we come to the sixth one, that is biography. Biography is the story of a person written by someone else. Story of a person written by someone else. You must know that the Biography of a Horse by Rabindranath Tagore is a famous biography. Now, next is comedy. Comedy is anything that has a happy ending. Any literary work that has a happy ending. This comedy, it also refers to satire, and usually comedy is found in most of the plays. It is the element found in plays or dramas. Now clause. Clause is a part of a sentence that has a subject and a predicate. For example, he said, or I have a pen. These may be concerned as independent clauses, and clauses, they are always either dependent or independent. Now diction. Diction. It is the choice of words or vocabulary used. This diction, it may be concerned with various types. For example, it may be homely, it may be literary, or it may be learned, it may be archaic. If you study or read the poems or the literature of the medieval ages, you will find that there is a lot of usage of the archaic words. Similarly, if you read Wordsworth or Robert Lee Frost, you will find that they have philosophical meaning, but their diction and their vocabulary is very simple. It is very easy for the readers to understand them. Then didactic. Didactic means through which you can learn something. It may be of ethics, or it may be of morality, or something positive. When you have these things to learn from a piece of art, it is said to be didactic. You can find didacticism or something to learn in those poems. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is expression of exaggeration. It is always in the superlative degree. It is never in the comparative or never in the positive degree. It is always, the idea is always expressed in the superlative degree. Hope you have understood all these things, all the literary terms. It is now easy for you to understand the poem or a prose, a novel or an essay, and then you would be able to understand not only the theme but the style of writing, and when you have understood both the things, it would be very easy for you to answer all the questions.